sense, I think it could create some kind of overinvestment. In other words, investment is not really driven by actual means or the earning support of the investment, but rather sort of a competition, a race.
Mm-hmm. And how worried should investors be about the circular financing where companies throughout the AI ecosystem invest in one another?
Well, I think the circular financing, as you mentioned, is basically one AI hyperscaler is investing in others, and then these other AI companies in turn buy their CPUs or run their cloud service from the investors. So this, on the one hand, will inflate cash earnings and lead to the overinvestment. On the other hand, it really builds up a circular and a very laden kind of liability structure. So when one node goes wrong, the liability structure will be unraveled. So I think this is quite concerning. And what is more concerning is that the policymakers and regulators are basically turning a blind eye to this. So I think that is really what is troublesome, where there's all these, opaque and shadow kinds of financing that's going on, including the social equity financing. And on the other hand, the regulators are simply ignoring these fragility of financial system buildup.
Mm-hmm. And the Federal Reserve aims to get the inflation under control, but it is facing some policy dilemma. So could you elaborate more on that? And what do you think poses the bigger challenge to the U.S. economy right now?
Well, I think the biggest challenge, of course, is still this idea of AI investment, because AI right now really accounts for the great majority of the U.S. growth. But if the earning gets disappointed or this investment turns infertile, then this could really unravel the entire scheme. And inflation is definitely one of the other concerns, given the rising, prices, and the Fed is not taking sufficient action. And I think that the PCO right now is still very fragile. And if there's anything worsened on that front, that could again create a lot more, disruptions in the U.S. economy. So overall, I think that the AI-driven economy with this inflation and also with the fragile ceasefire deal, all of this, I think, pose certain danger to the U.S. economy.
Mm. And do you think the U.S. economy is also facing the potential risk of stagflation?
I think that is definitely a possibility. Inflation is high, and the growth rate has significantly slowed down, and again, all hinges on the AI expenditure. If that expenditure is not meeting, the expected cash earnings, that could definitely derail the U.S. economy and create stagflation dramatically.
Yan Liang, professor of economics, joining us from Willamette University, speaking with my colleague Zhao Yang. You are listening to World Today. Stay tuned. You are back with World Today. I'm Dinghan in Beijing. The World Health Organization says the Democratic Republic of the Congo has reported the largest number of confirmed cases in the first month of any Ebola outbreak. The UN Health Agency says part of the reason for the scale of the outbreak was that some early confirmed cases were located in urban centers. The World Health Organization is calling for scaling up our response, warning that the outbreak is moving faster than our existing response to it. Experts say the Bundibugyo virus strain had already been circulating for months before it was officially declared in the mid of May. So for more, joining us now on the line is Dr. Andrew Easton, Emeritus Professor of Virology, joining us from the University of Warwick in Britain. Thank you very much for joining us, Professor.
Happy to be here.
So, first of all, does the latest statement from the World Health Organization suggest that the final scale for the current Ebola outbreak could ultimately surpass the scale of the last major Ebola crisis between 2014 and 2016?
Well, obviously the rate of spread and appearance of the infection is a concern. It is extremely rapid. But to put it in context in the terms of the question that you asked, so far there have been around about 1,000 confirmed cases in this outbreak, albeit in a relatively short time frame. in the much longer outbreak in 2014, 2015, the total number of cases was in the region of 23,500, about 28,000, I beg your pardon. So a considerable difference. So still not in that territory yet, but it is obviously a concern to the people on the ground that this may spread, particularly because it's in an urban area where we know the spread is much more rapid.
So, Professor, what are your main takeaways as you observe the current outbreak over the past 1 month or even longer?
Well, over the period of which we've become aware of it, the first point is the one that's already been made, is the speed with which it's spreading. That's something that is unusual and obviously a concern. The other thing that's clear, which is very sad, is that despite our experience in 2014-15 with a vast number of people who were infected, approximately 40% or so died in that outbreak, the international response has been very disappointing. We know the risks that are present because of this virus, and there really is a desperate need to respond quickly to try and stop it, because the longer we leave it before a response is initiated, the more difficult it will be to bring it under control. And so it is a concern that there seems to be a lack of urgency from large parts of the world who would be expected to contribute to helping here.